Hey, welcome to your next best step with Brek Cockrell, the locker room for purpose-driven leaders. This is where we slow down, reflect, and we take our next best step through real stories, practical strategies, and rooted leadership wisdom. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, even the best leaders need a coach in their corner.
Welcome back to your next best step, the leaders' locker room, where leaders slow down, get real, and become rooted so they can lead others better. Today's guest is someone whose story hits close to home. Literally, he's a Buffalo boy who left the Queen City, answered a call to the Atlanta area, and has been turning on lights ever since. Bishop Matthew L. Brown, the senior pastor of Greater Community Church of God in Christ in Marietta, Georgia, a church with a legacy stretching back over 100 years. Appointed as their shepherd in 2011, which I can't believe it's been that long. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And under his leadership, Greater Community has become exactly what its name suggests, a church deeply embedded in the community it serves, committed to what Bishop Brown calls bringing kingdom to community. And here's what I love about this man. His vision sounds similar to mine. He's committed to building a church where every man, woman, and boy and girl has repeated opportunities to hear, feel, see, touch, taste, smell.
That's right.
The gospel of Jesus Christ. It's not a mission statement, it's a life. A fourth generation Kojic member, Bishop Brown has served in leadership for over 40 years at the local, district, jurisdictional, national, and even international level, which we'll talk about. He was consecrated to the sacred office of bishop in 2021, earned doctorate, is a certified trainer, facilitator, global leadership coach, helping leaders, organizations, and communities unlock what he calls the reservoir of significance. I love that. Before planting his flag in Georgia, he served right here in Buffalo as the former senior pastor of Pentecostal Temple Kojic and as director of communications to the mayor's office of Buffalo. He's theologically trained, he's corporately educated, he's civic-minded, kingdom-focused, also the author of Becoming Distinctively You. Simply put, Bishop Brown is a leader who builds bridges, develops leaders, and believes that every person carries something powerful on the inside that the world needs to see. Bishop Matthew Brown, welcome to the locker room.
Man, I am so delighted to be here with you. I think I'm more hyped because you're here. You, man, have been a phenomenal asset in my life. I'll never forget, Breck, our ride. I think we were going to Syracuse.
Syracuse. I was just thinking of it.
Bruh, that was life-changing for me.
Well,
To just to have that time to talk, to get to know you, to hear your heart, and to see the great things that you have done. I love the fact, man, to your credit, you have always had 2 feet on the ground. And you have a keen sense of being present to everybody's space. That's not scientific, that's not taught. That is an art that's innate with you. And so I'm delighted to be on your podcast. I'm delighted to just have a moment to chop it up with you, bro.
Yeah, man. Well, that trip, you and I, like, it's crazy. All of the similarities, all the connections that we have, that we discovered somewhat on that trip.
Hmm.
It was so rare of me to do that, to actually ride with somebody else for longer than 30 minutes. And I'm like, but I had started this process of trying to be a little more curious. And getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So when you offered to pick me up and to ride with you, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Now, I got to tell you, it was nice. You had a driver.
Hmm.
Dude, he was a bad man.
JB, my dude.
Oh, what swag, man. He was a cool dude, man. and to be able to sit in that back seat and chop it up for 2.5 hours.
Yep.
Our birthdays are a week apart.
Yep.
We're the same age.
Yep.
Uh, our podcast is similar in theme, which is we didn't know till we were just what's the name of the podcast?
The no, the episode I just did
The
is
episode you just did,
your the next best move,
the next best move.
and your podcast is your next best step.
Yeah.
Yeah, the podcast is the undercurrent, but
Okay.
man, I just did this episode on the next best move.
I love it. I'm gonna have to listen to that myself.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I mean, you gave me such history
Hmm.
on Buffalo, and you have been a great resource for me over the years, giving me background, understanding, cultural background, church, black church,
Yep.
explaining to me, this, that. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's you just, man, you've been so helpful, man. I so appreciate it. So, man, how about sharing a little bit about for our listeners who may not know you specifically, like what's a little bit of background that you can kind of like your Buffalo roots to
Yeah.
kind of, where you're at today.
Born and raised in Buffalo, New York. I love Buffalo. I believe Buffalo is one of America's best transformational cities.
Mm,
And I love it because I grew up there in community and I had the opportunity to watch Buffalo evolve, watch Buffalo stall, watch Buffalo fail, and then watch Buffalo reimagine itself.
mm,
And then to be in spaces that were both sacred, civic, political, corporate really gave me, I think, a nice perspective on communities and cities to have opportunities, man, to not only go to school there, went to Riverside High, to do theater, to travel the country doing music with our traveling choir with Ira Stevenson, who Sister Act 3 was inspired by her.
mm.
She's in California now. Um,
Wow.
and so just to kind of go through those things and then to work, have a family, work there, and just kind of have that sort of blue collar, intentionality, character building
Mhm.
sort of experience.
There's a
And
level
then
of grit that comes out of living in Buffalo that people have, right?
absolutely. And whether that is the weather, navigating the weather, whether that is understanding how to still, sort of move with the snow and all the things. But there is I would agree with you. There's a Buffalo determination,
Mm,
a Western New York pride. And
yeah.
if you think about it, because Buffalo had a real hard time um, understanding its identity after the steel mill and all of the, Anaconda Brass and Bethlehem Steel and all the things closed down, trying to figure out who are we,
Yeah.
and in that space. So I just think that Buffalo has been a tremendous, tremendous foundational space for me. And then to have the opportunity to work in the city government and to go from special assistant to the mayor to vice president of economic development, from there to being commissioner of general services, director of intergovernmental services, and then at 9/11 to be called into Tony Massiola's office and him saying, "Hey, listen, I need you to come into my suite and serve as a deputy mayor for director of communications, and you'll be the spokesperson, policy advisor, speechwriter, that kind of thing." That gave me like tremendous, tremendous perspective
Yeah.
of so many different things, communities, working with others, being able to pull banks together and create the Grow Buffalo Fund, put $1 million into the tops that is now on Jefferson and Riley, $1 million into the tops that's on Niagara, and to see things happen, and then to go to William and Jefferson Street, and imagine,
Mm.
putting a McDonald's there, putting a Rite Aid there, and creating that, taking down um, concrete buildings and putting houses, serving as a member of the Buffalo Municipal Housing Authority. There's just so much that really, to be honest with you, Brett, that was my training ground for me to be where I am today
Yeah.
in terms of serving the world and serving our national denomination is the principal architect of the 10-year written strategic plan, all the things that we do.
Uh, I laugh not I just because I chuckle because you know my dad was a pastor and we grew up in Kansas City and it was a uh pretty safe bubble, right? But here I am. I was on church at a large staff at a large church here in Western New York. We planted in the city, and I was so naive to so many things. And I did this when I was 43. So it's not
Yeah.
like I was 23.
Right.
Like there's some things I should have known that I just didn't even know that I needed to know. And one of them was all my black and brown city pastors, they had real jobs
Yeah.
and and then they had real pastor jobs.
Yeah.
And I that was a concept that was new to me. And
Really.
it was like I didn't know any other pastor that was like working like but when I moved into the city and I started meeting with Angel and he
Yep.
worked at the on the the metro for 30 years, retired, and so many other pastors that it was just like, well, that's Darius, like all these pastors, like, yeah, that's what we do. You can be great at your work, and then you can also be great at pastoring. And I'm like, oh wow, I had no idea. So when I hear you when we were sitting in that back, I still remember like, you did what? You're still and pastoring? Like, oh my gosh. I was embarrassed because I'm like, I need to get some work done.
But you know what's interesting? I think that also it comes with that buffalo mentality, right? So being bivocational, whether that is sacred and secular, or whether that is multiple, having a main
Yeah.
job and other your side hustle and all the things. I think it just comes with that. And I think that for me, working particularly in the city and pastoring, it felt the same
Mhm. Yeah, I could see that.
because it was one was more sort of a spiritual leadership and really bringing the things that I learned from sort of my corporate space and my employment space in terms of organization, communication, bringing that to at that time the black church created this sort of I think it developed my whole consciousness of distinction. So
Mm,
I've taken distinction, and that's my brand. I'm a distinctive strategist.
mm,
Becoming Distinctively You is my book. Blue Water Ministry. It is the ministry distinction of a local church. What is it that separates you from the 45, 50 churches in your area? What is your ministry signature? What is your thing that causes people to say, "Oh, I'm going to bypass this and this because I can't get or feel this way anyplace else." So
mm.
that's how we built out our
Yeah,
whole blue water model.
yeah. I know leadership. I mean, I've been a geek on leadership since my early days when I was coaching basketball at a high school and a parent of a player that I was coaching. he invited me to be a part of he owned a big electrical company, and this was back like in mid 80s. And Zig Ziglar had just kind of certified his, like, and you could go to Dallas and get certified, and then you come back and you had big VH tapes and big binders and everything. And he says, "Hey, I'm taking our staff through Zig Ziglar stuff, and you want to come through it?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I think I still have it somewhere, that big red binder. But man, when hearing that, and my dad, being a pastor, he'd always have different pastors, evangelists come in, and he'd always have tapes, Charles Tremendous Jones, and different people that he'd be listening to, and so I just early on, I just kind of geeked out on leadership, even when I didn't have really anybody to lead. Um, I was always interested in it. And so I've been on this journey about leading, and I think, Matt, one of the things people ask me, "Hey, is every, are leaders born? Are they made? Is everybody a leader?" And I say yes to all of it.
Hmm.
Some are that have more natural ability,
Hmm.
you can develop it, but I believe everybody is a leader because I believe God's put his thumbprint on us, and
Hmm.
he's given us this life and the agency to lead our lives first and
Hmm.
foremost, right?
Hmm.
But I mean, I've always loved you, like your bent and your take on leadership. What would be, your definition of leadership, and the importance of self leadership, and then also what it means to lead others, whether it's in the church world, whether it's
Yeah.
secular.
Yeah. To be honest with you, you're right. Our stories are so similar. I think that where I have evolved to understand leadership more than define it, because defining it puts it in a box,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a shelf life
Mm,
based upon the time span of culture. So leadership in 2000 is not leadership in 2010, is not leadership in 2020, is not leadership today. So I would tell you, I think that my experience of leadership has evolved to understanding that leadership for me is influential purpose.
mm,
It is being able to be influenced by my purpose and then live from that influence so that it becomes contagious for others that are around me. I think that one of the things that I do these madisms on Monday. And one time I wrote this thing, and I don't like plan them. I actually, it just comes to me at the moment. And what was interesting, and it's become sort of my life model, is that I model what I expect
mm.
so that I can determine what I'll accept.
Woo! Come on,
You
say
see,
that. Say that again.
I model what I expect
Yep.
so I can determine what I'll accept.
Mm,
And then that context. So when we talk about influential purpose, I am influenced by my purpose. My purpose also informs me. And as long as I live in that sweet spot of influential purpose, I think that that's leadership for where I am.
mm.
So that others that see me in this space are inspired, not necessarily by my skill, but the fact that I bought into my purpose.
Yeah.
And that purpose has influenced me to push on, to move at the speed of life.
Purpose. What uh do you find purpose, or does it find you? Does I'd love to hear your view on purpose. I mean, that's such an interesting, word, concept, motivation, like all these
Yeah.
things.
I really believe that we discover purpose.
Hmm,
And we discover purpose as we move through the speed of life, right? As we move through the speed of life, purpose is like has always been there. And you just said it earlier. Different terminology, but same principle. I believe that everyone is stamped from conception with purpose because otherwise there would be no need for existence.
Yeah.
We only exist because there is a purposeful mandate for us to be.
Yeah.
And so I think we spend a lot of time trying to find purpose, trying to corral purpose, trying to, instead of just living at the speed of life and discovering, wow, oh, this is what light, and purpose is the thing that lights you up.
Mm,
Purpose is the thing that gets you going. It fuels you. You can be exhausted, but you kind of know that this is your driven spot. This is where you need to be. And I think when we make that discovery, purpose informs us. So now that you've discovered me, let me inform you that this is your why.
mm,
Now you take why and you begin to develop skills around that influence, whether that's communication, whether that is organization, whether that is interpersonal, whether that is integration, whether that is skills to be strategic, or skills to just simply be relational. So it's all the things because purpose, in my mind, and it could be wrong, but in my mind, purpose informs me, and that influence happens where people see that you're attached to something and it lights you up.
mm,
Now, and then when I overlay that with faith in Jesus Christ,
hmm.
then that becomes something different for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then I get caught in the Galatians 2:20 deal, which is my life verse, that I am crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Christ lives in me. And the life that I now live in the flesh is by the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. So
Mm,
now, man, I have this sort of understanding of life purpose. I have purpose informing me so that I become influential in that space, and then I walk out my life model. What I raise my children on is I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me because the hand of the Lord is upon me for excellence. There's purpose. I can have what he has. I can say what he says. I can do what he does because I am the Lord's anointed.
mm,
That's purpose. And that's the thing that drives me to do all the things that we do. Even when we don't feel equipped, we don't feel like we belong. We feel like it's more of a pipe dream.
mm.
And you dive into it anyway because your purpose is saying, yeah, come on, let's try this.
Yeah.
We got this.
So do you think there is a combination of rooted out of Genesis, the creation story? Do you think there is a general purpose for everyone that's the same, and then there's also individual purpose that you discover along the way? What how
That's good. I do believe that. I believe out of the Genesis narrative that everyone has purpose, but purpose, that's why I keep using and I don't even know whether this makes sense, but when I talk about purpose informing influence, because influence becomes your lane.
yeah,
See, you have influence that I don't have influence in. You have spaces because you do understand purpose. Purpose informs you, and then somehow it plants us, whether that is geographical, whether that is ethnic, whether that is religious, whether that is vocation, profession. You find your lane where you influence that space, but you're
hmm,
driven by that purpose. And again, I think that purpose is general for everyone
yeah,
because you exist, we exist.
yes,
So we wouldn't be here if there was no purpose for us in the earth.
yeah, yeah. Man, that's I love that because uh you know uh John Maxwell, we I know you're a big you know, not just fan, but we've talked about Maxwell in the past, and it wasn't actually Maxwell that coined it. It was actually Oswald Sanders in a devotional
That's right.
that says leadership is influence. He just made it really famous. But and I think that leadership is influence. I think that's you know, the influence that we have, the sphere of influence that we have around us. Like, we have to own that, take agency for that. I think one of the purposes that I see out of the Genesis is to Adam, and basically is to be a life giver, not a life taker, but to give life. Like,
Hmm.
and so I think we all have, you know, in us the basically the mandate. Hey, be life giving, no matter what space you get into, and that is influence, right? And then how that all that, but there's also, when it comes to influence, man, there's our whys, our whats, our hows, our behaviors, all of those things. Um, and I know that you're in a lot of different spaces of where we would call leadership dysfunction. And what are some of the behaviors of leaders? Because this is a leadership podcast. We're
Yep.
trying to help leaders take their next best step.
Yeah.
One of the things that I talk about, two main things a lot, is everything depends on trust.
Hmm.
And trust is the soil that all good things grow out of.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so when we don't pay attention to the soil of trust, and the only way we can do that is ask this courageous question: what's it like on the other side of me, really?
Hmm.
What does
Hmm.
it look like, sound like, feel like, to our family, to our spouses, to the people we were our church? Like, what's it feel like on the other side of our church, right? What does it feel like on the other side of our department, our organization? You
Hmm.
know, um, but in that is a lot of times trust gets broken, suspicion fills in the gap. What are the things that you see leaders struggle with that breaks trust with the people that are counting on them the most?
Wow, that's loaded. Let me start here. Consistency.
Hmm. Come on.
The thing that is killing leadership
Oh,
today is the lack of consistency.
hmm.
And so now let me sort of build this little model.
Love it.
If that is my answer, then what does that look like? It looks like intellectual laziness. It looks like purpose confusion. It looks like relational resistance.
Hmm.
So if I'm intellectually lazy, I'm confused about the why of my what, then I'm equally in spaces where I create bad relationships.
Hmm.
And those relationships are foundational. Relationships is the currency that we use for influence or leadership, right? So in this context, I just think that consistency is key. People will be drawn to leaders when leaders are consistent in their why and their what,
Hmm.
even if the person outside of your sphere is not interested. But now all of a sudden they're drawn to you because you're consistent with it.
Hmm.
And in a day where people are checking their phones 90 times a day, when we are distracted by algorithms and consumer surveillance and AI stuff, the question becomes, will we remain consistent in our why?
Hmm.
And I think the lack of consistency creates this leadership dysfunction. And as you point out, the issue of trust, because you cannot You can't trust, or in the, no, maybe you can. I don't believe that trust that can't be tested through consistency and modeled through consistency can be trusted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're never going to bat 1,000,
Right.
right? I mean, but I think I mean our brains ask two questions when we walk into spaces. First one is, am I safe? Right? And we're not able to fully function, be our best selves if we don't answer that. If the environment that a leader has created has not been able to allow that person to yes to answer that. If it's a no or a maybe, we stay in scramble mode,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so this idea of creating an environment that is safe. The second one is, am I loved?
Yeah.
Right? And that's manifested by, am I seen, heard, and validated? And I think for leaders, we spend so much time. I'm working with an organization, and I'm running a mastermind. There's about 10 mid managers, and I asked all from all different departments in the organization. I said, "Hey, how much time do you spend as a manager, as a leader, on outcomes?" And they all started like laughing, what's a percentage? And so one of them finally said, 85, 90%. And everybody's like, yeah, and it might be 95%. And I'm like, wow, we spend so much time on the outcome. Um, the coaching I'm doing now is I've kind of honed it in specific. I'm a value centered leadership development coach. I
Okay.
believe that if I can help, as John Maxwell says, we got to be really good at what we do, but we need to be great at who we are. If I can just help some leaders be better human beings, guess
Mm-hmm.
what? They're going to become better leaders. The
Mm-hmm.
organization is going to be better, right?
Sure.
And
Mm-hmm.
so this idea of trust, but I was literally on a call today, and I think there's two areas that leaders that we struggle with. One is avoidance. We avoid conversations. We avoid. There's something, and then accountability. It, it's hard to lead
Yeah.
when first of all we're not accountable to ourselves and for ourselves. So there's a deficit of like integrity there that
Mm-hmm.
impacts us that we're working on, right?
Yeah.
But then also avoidance. How have you seen that show up in the leaders that you're working with? That area of
Yeah.
accountability and avoidance.
It's interesting because there is another concept around leadership that would suggest that leadership is not necessarily a destination or
Absolutely.
sort of this strength that we throw it around.
Yeah.
I'm in the midst of writing a book now called The Leader's Ship. I'll tell
Mm,
you about that concept later,
mm,
but it's not leadership, but it's the leader's ship.
uh,
And so, in that context, I think that leadership exposes what's there.
mm,
So, if we take the concept of leadership as exposing, then what you talked about around avoidance and accountability, leadership exposes that we've been being that all the time.
mm,
We obfuscate, we deflect,
mm,
and we have to move on to something else because we don't want to be measured by our inconsistency.
mm,
So if I got to be measured by my inconsistency, then that's why I'm more focused about outcomes than I am process. I have outcomes on my mind than presence.
mm,
And it's interesting when you talk about your next best step. And this episode that I did for the undercurrent is the next best move for 2026. I'm making the point that we are so destination driven
Mm,
that we're not even present to our current journey and making a simple, just make the next best move.
yeah.
You don't have to knock it all out. But when it gets to accountability and avoidance, then those things I would suggest, Brett, are things that we struggle with personally
Yeah.
because you cannot bring to leadership what you are not in your own life.
Mm,
And so as a result,
yeah.
what we try to do then is when we're in mid management, when we're executive levels, where we're administrative spaces, we like to create systems to control people. But leadership is about how do you grow the person
Mhm.
that is assigned to you.
Yeah.
So I determine the accountability of leadership for me based upon who's growing around me. And
Mm,
if they are not, then I have to determine that I'm not a leader in this space
mm,
because I have not made any measurable impact, which is causing people to see themselves differently, challenge themselves. I love your word that you used in our trip to Syracuse is curiosity. Do we spark curiosity in
yeah.
people? And so I think avoidance, accountability, leadership exposes that we haven't dealt with that personally. So we create bureaucracies, systems, metrics, things for people to do so
Hmm.
that we can hold them accountable while we as the leader remain unaccountable because we've obfuscated and created a system more so than being present for that person's personal growth.
Yeah. I literally just got off a call uh with a leader, and I suggested he was struggling with, didn't want to like feel like he's micromanaging, but there was lots of things, right, that weren't getting checked off, that weren't getting followed through. And I just simply said, I said, well, maybe just a little bit of a mind shift. Like, so just think about it this way. We lead people, we manage systems. But when we try to manage people, that's when that's when all of the suspicion, the distrust, like the manipulation, right? Like we lead people, which goes to your point, the presence. It's people first, and then all the systems. Like then we just manage those,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but we gotta lead people. I love so curiosity. So my the business I have, the coaching business called BC Leadership CO, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
everybody calls me BC, but the BC actually means be curious.
Get out of here. Is it a Brek Cockrell?
Yeah. Yes. It's a little Easter egg. I've hidden some candy in the Easter
I
egg, right?
love that, man. I love that. Yeah, be curious.
And
Yeah,
I'll send you a hat. I've got a hat. It's BC. It says be curious, right?
love it.
Uh and let's just kind of like church world.
Yeah.
I think and this is for me growing up in a predominantly all white kind of world, like leadership world. Um, I will give my dad credit. He back in the early 70s brought on a pastor in Kansas City, a black pastor. We had multiple campuses back in early 70s. He was before his
Mm,
time.
wow.
And so we had a campus, a church downtown Kansas City. And so he brought on Pastor Joseph Harper. I mean, just an amazing dude. In like 1972, 73. Of course, I I'm just a kid. I don't know that was like a really big deal. Didn't
Huge.
know
Yeah.
what dad went through till decades later. And he said, man, he said, I had death threats and I had all kinds of things when I did that. I'm like, no kidding. But and so I there was some diversity, but when it comes to theology, when it comes to politics, when it comes to all of that, it was pretty white, pretty Republican, right? And I believe that the church, at least the church that I grew up in, predominantly white led, was a church that was led and disciple people into certainty.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
so it was the more certain you could be, the more spiritual you'll become. So we're certain you can't go see the movies. We're certain you can't, ladies, you can't wear pants. We're certain that like there was a whole long list that was basically communicated. Hey, if you want to be on the Lord's side, we're certain these are the things you got to do, right? And and we were certain that our way is the right way, their way is the wrong way. And so much of what was constructed, that was preached, discipled, and I think even at a grander scale, it is partly what we're seeing today in white evangelical churches, that we've been discipled into certainty and we've basically moved out all curiosity. And I find that the way Jesus led, as not only as God in flesh, but actually as a man, was he led with a lot of vulnerability and asked lots of questions and led his life through curiosity versus certainty. There are certain things for sure. He had a he had a destination that he was certain on. But every day he woke, and he had need. He had to show vulnerability.
Yeah.
And it always fascinates me that Jesus, as a man, didn't ever seem to have to hustle or chase, but was pretty grounded, and but was okay with uncertainty, okay with curiosity.
So let's let's mash these potatoes for a minute.
I knew we
So
weren't going to follow this outline one bit
yeah,
that we
I
had in
know, I know, I know. And listen, I've just followed your lead. So so the question, so let's imagine that his curiosity is sparked by his certainty.
Mm, mm,
So, and again, this could just be a different perspective, but I would say that maybe his curiosity was really comes out of his certainty because he was clear about who he was.
yeah,
And everyone else is trying to find themselves in that space.
right.
So then, you know, Lord, here's the coin. So I just got back from Israel. Took 25
Yeah,
leaders to
I
Israel,
saw
right?
that, man. I was like, man,
So I bought money coins from the Bible, right? So I have that denarii and the with the whole image of Caesar on it, and so it is. Hey, should we do this for you or this for Caesar? He says, pull out the coin, whose picture, and then render to Caesar that which is Caesar, and God to that which is God. I think that I think in the context of, and I'm gonna just meld these two things together. I think in the context of Jesus' leadership, there is a certainty about purpose,
mm,
and then there's a curiosity that that certainty evokes in others,
yeah,
asking, "Why are you so certain?" because I'm not. And then he uses curiosity as a tool to bring them into certainty.
Mm,
Because I think that a lot of times, think about it as leaders. When you run into someone who is very clear about who they are,
yeah.
then what happens is, as a coach, we do this all the time. Matter of fact, I'm going to Jacksonville on Friday. I'm in Pittsburgh doing the things, and they're asking me, how can you be so certain? Because you sort of exude this confidence
Yeah.
that comes from your certainty, right?
Mhm.
And again, I want to get back to being consistent, not being intellectually lazy, being relationally engaging, all the things, right?
Yeah.
So if you're certain, then people who are not are going to keep asking BC, well, how can you be sure? And then you turn around and you coach them into, you utilize curiosity,
Yeah.
because now you don't give them the answer. You start asking questions
Hmm.
and you're asking them, well, tell me, how do you see this? And you're embracing their curiosity, bringing it into certainty to bring them to a certain place where they feel comfortable now about what they either had believed or what they had come to know as truth. So I just wanted to, you
Love
tossed
that.
that ball out there and I
I
had to,
love it. I
yeah.
love it. I knew I'd get a perspective that I hadn't thought through. Yeah, so I love it. Um, you and I have had some very candid conversations about around the issue of race, ethnicity, culture, um, and I've always loved and learned from you on these perspectives. Um, the Reverend Jesse Jackson just passed.
Yeah.
Um, there is so much um, that's going on in our country, led from the White House all the way through, Congress, Senate, city, all those kind of things. Um, and this goes to maybe this idea of certain versus curious.
Hmm.
And it seems, you and I have had this. It seems that there is a large contingent of white Christians who seem to be very certain about what's right and what's wrong and all things, right? And I don't typically get into all of that on this podcast, but you're here, you and I. This is something that and I'm like, it'd be hard not to have some discussion about these hard things that most people rather would just avoid,
Hmm.
just sit in their certainty. Like
Hmm.
um, like, I just love to hear like what's going on in your heart, your mind, as a black man, black
Hmm.
leader, black pastor, like
Hmm.
all the spaces that you're in,
Hmm.
like what's going on in your heart and mind right now as you're leading people.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think the issue is that I think as a country, we stand at the crossroads of both memory and meaning. If you think about it, this is 2026. So Jesse Jackson has passed away. This is February. This is Black History Month, right? And it's been 100 years since Carter G. Woodson launched what really became what was it, the Negro History Week, right? And so it evolved as Black History Month. But watch this. This is the 250th year also of national existence in 1776. So come on.
Wow.
You got to say, okay, wait a minute. So here's memory and here's meaning. And my question is, what does the memory mean? Because from a global perspective, as a global, and now I qualify as a global leader
Hmm.
because I am leading close to 100 churches in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So 5 years into my consecration episcopacy, now having been there several times, having raised hundreds of thousands of dollars, pouring into abject poverty and to political injustice that's created unsustainable living conditions, right? Both geopolitics, all the things, and then to take a group of African American leaders to Israel on an educational and theological to make them a theological and educational cohort, and to sit at Mount Herzl and listen to the widows of fallen IDF soldiers relative to what happened on October 7th. I sat there, Brett, and I said to myself, something's wrong. I couldn't shake it. And it dawned on me. Now I get, because I couldn't figure out what is it about this piece of real estate here? I mean, great spooky goosebumps. Oh, this is where Jesus walked, blah, 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 blah. So once you get over that, right, it's like, what is this that's inherently inside of these people? So let me share what I shared with Robert Stearns and my cohort. And I said, what's really interesting, what's missing for me as a black man is that as I'm sitting here at Mount Herzl, which is the equivalent of Arlington National Cemetery in America,
Okay.
for Israel for the Israelis, is that they have ethnicity, religion, and geography. It's a threefold cord that says to them that there's a covenant space. This is where we belong. Forget all of the conversations around Christian Zionism, all the things. I'm not.
Yeah.
That's noise. But I said that's what's missing for us as black people because we were enslaved. So you're taking away from geography.
Yeah.
And then you have replacement theology, right? Because now you're introduced. Now, it's not that we didn't have religion coming from Africa. So I don't ever want to make that mistake. We
Right.
were clear about having faith, Coptic Christians, all the deal. But you get here, and now there's a cultural Christianity that is built around being subservient. And then so you go from slavery to Reconstruction to Jim Crow to segregation, systemic racism, and you still have this overlay of cultural white supremacist Christianity that operates out of a certainty that keeps people of color, black, brown, poor white, it keeps people marginalized, asking questions. And the curiosity is this: when will I matter the way you're certain that you matter?
Oof.
It is all the questions, right? Because we don't have geography, we have ethnicity, and we've got religion. But that religion has been tainted
Mm.
based upon the fact that we had to steward survival.
Mm.
You had to steward the worst moment in human history, America's original sin. Then those who have to steward it have to steward it because you've got generations to come.
Mm.
So when you talk about the certainty and the curious, man, that we could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah.
Because the questions become that's very different, because the issue for me is there's two anniversaries. So if this is the 100th year of Black history, this is the 250th year of America. So there's two anniversaries, basically two mirrors and two questions, right? So what kind of nation have we been?
Mm.
And then what kind of church will we be now?
Oh.
Because the deal is, and you've read Nieberg's stuff about Christ and culture, right? And there's another book that I want to tell you that when you were talking about it, Caroline Leaf, been reading a lot of her stuff on remapping our brain, right? Because this is, to me, is huge in the context of the question is not about The question is not about their certainty. The question is about not allowing others to be curious around the question of matter.
Mm.
And so what it looks like now systemic sin that is in constant in policies and systems. So now all of a sudden, if there is equity, not equality, just equity, will we ever be given the opportunity to ask the question to the powers that be in the systems and structures and institutions that exist? When will we matter?
Mm.
Because I'm going to tell you, the thing that really got me was I can go around the world. I can deal with Congolese. I can have North Kivu where kids' faces are being shot off, Brett, because of tribal wars. And I can rail against that. I come to America and I have to live as this particular season that we're in with people that think we are subhuman and sub-American. I have to live with that and I have to live with my questions. That's why my friendship with you means the world to me
Mm.
because at least you give me space to ask the question. I don't need the answer. I just want the privilege to ask, when will I as a black man matter? And then here's the other issue. The other issue is that it hurts
Mm.
that I can go to the Hill in May for Advocacy Day against anti-Semitism. I can fight the fight. I can be trotted out like a marionette puppet, and I can say all the things. But when racism is blatant, direct, and clear, and I hear silence
Mm.
in a loud nation, then it makes me curious to ask the question, if I can say anti Semitism is wrong,
Mm.
if I can if I can go to the kibbutz, if I can go to the place where the music festival was held and thousands of people were killed, I believe that all suffering is wrong.
Mm.
So how can I be black, have that understanding, and yet my kumbaya white evangelical brothers and sisters, they're just certain that that's just the way it is.
Mm.
And I have questions about when will we matter. I didn't mean to take that much time, but bruh,
No,
you
that's
struck a nerve.
well. I remember this was several years ago. I'd had my knee replaced, so that was what 2016 or something like
Mm.
that. And I was literally getting uh, I was going to therapy, and I was literally getting strapped to a board, and they were going to pull my knee down to stretch it out, and it's the most painful 3 minutes of my life. And literally, as I was getting on that and they were stretching it down, I see a call from Matt Brown, and I'm like, oh, hey. and and you had a question that still haunts me today, is why do I have to teach my CEO, president, vice president, principals, like black leaders in Atlanta, to have a shut my mouth faith? Why do I have to do that? Or something close to that.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I had no answers. I just remember that call and that question. And I have thought about that no less than hundreds of times in different matters of what's going on in our country. What did you mean by that?
The fact that we see the same thing occurring. You see it, I see it, but you get to not you, Brett, that the white culture gets to define it and clarify it, and the people of color have to professionally, discreetly, and by survival exercise shut mouth grace.
Yes, shut my face. Yeah.
We can't say anything about it
Mm,
because if you say something about it, he who has the goal makes the rules. So that will either shut you off from your just barely surviving. You have to put up with it. And you know what? It is analogous, and I'm sure it is not, but I'm going to just tell you emotionally or psychologically, it is analogous to watching possibly our ancestors who were enslaved having their families ripped apart and sold off. And there's nothing you can say about it because you are powerless. So when I called you about that,
mm,
it was because I was feeling powerless and I had no friends who represented. And I'm not saying that, and I want to be very clear, that's not you, but I had nobody to call to help me walk through it so that even if I, as educated as I am, as positioned as I am, if I came out and said something, then I get tagged with being the angry black man. It always, so no matter what the issue is, I am diminished by my response.
yeah,
That's hell, Doc.
man.
That's hell. And that's why your certainty curious thing just really hit a nerve because the issue is I can be as curious as I want to be. It never rises to the level of legitimate certainty.
Mhm. Yeah. Woo!
Yeah, I know. That's that. Hey, listen, you the one who said we're gonna chop it up and go deep. I'm like, bruh, let's do this.
Oh man. Um, wow. Well, we're going to have to do we're going to have to jump back on together and
Yep.
do more of this. I love it when your book comes out. I love leadership. Like there's some great stuff in that.
Yep.
So I love it, man. So just a couple of things, just wrapping up our conversation today. Like, there's some leaders, they're struggling, maybe with their purpose, maybe with their idea. Like, what would be a couple of things that you could just share from your experience that would help leaders at really any level help them take their next best step in the areas that you think are most important?
Yeah. I think a couple of steps. I think there needs to be a refocusing. The leader today has to refocus. I
Mm,
mean, you literally have to say, okay, I know what worked then. Where am I now? And then be courageous enough
mm.
to learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
So those three, so you've got to refocus, you've got to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And then for me, you got to ask, is my leadership in the space where Frederick Bachner, which is one of my his famous quotes, that the kind of work God calls you to is the kind of work that you need most to do, because the work that God calls you to is the place of the world's deep hunger and your deep gladness. That's where they meet.
Ooh.
So you've got to ask, is
Yeah.
the work that God calls you to, the work that we're doing, the work that the leadership, is this part of your deep hunger? Is it part of others' deep hunger and your deep gladness? Because if you understand that, then the rest of it it's bearable. So I just think that you have to refocus and be where your feet are. And then you have to learn, unlearn, and relearn, because some of the things that we have taught and that we have said life has moved, life has changed, man. So, and then you've got to just determine whether or not this is where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger, this is where they meet.
Mm. Love, love that, man. All right. So you're getting called on stage, you know, 10,000, 20,000 people coming on stage. You're going to be talking about leadership, life. What's your walk-up song? Your leadership walk-up song, Matt Brown, that's going to get that basically speaks to who you are and gets the room like bopping and popping.
Jackson 5, old classic. I want you back. Oh, baby, I was wrong to let you go. But now that I see
I
you
love it.
in his arms, I want you back. Oh, baby, I want you back. Ooh, darling.
Oh yeah.
Just the strings on that, man. That's
Yeah.
my walk-up song.
Oh, I love it. I was not expecting that, but I love it. And for those who have never visited but might visit Buffalo one day, what's your favorite Buffalo wing place?
Oh, come on, man.
Come
Oh,
on. I know you're going to, this is people.
Lenovo's.
Oh, you know what?
Lenovo's.
Have you had bar bills?
No.
Okay. Next time you're in town, text me
Okay. Will do.
and I'll take you to bar bills
Okay.
because Lenovo and Duff's, like,
Yeah, I
they're,
got
they're
you.
my they're my 1-2 till I had bar bills.
Oh, okay.
And bar bills is at number one.
So, but Bar Bills is new, right?
Bar bills has been in East Aurora for years. It's a
Oh, that's why I don't know it.
right. It's a little bar, literally. But now
Right.
they got a new one over in like on Main Street and in Transit,
Oh, okay, cool. All right.
and they literally hand paint every wing. It's not just a toss. They hand paint every wing.
Oh
It's
my
a
God.
masterpiece.
Is it crispy?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
'Cause I can't do the
I can't
rubbery thing.
go. I cannot do not crispy. No.
Yeah, yeah, right. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna definitely do that.
All
Definitely
right.
do
Well,
that.
hey, thanks, Matt, for
Love you,
jumping
man.
on here, man. Love you so much. And if you heard something on the podcast today that inspired you or challenged you, send it to a friend. Uh, Go to my website, bcleadershipco.com. Sign up for our email. We have a Throw Down Thursday email that goes out every Thursday. And man, just thank you for joining us on the podcast today and keep taking your next best step.